Welcome, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening from all around the world. Today, I am so excited to welcome you to Untethered. For our keynote, we wanted to bring the energy, which there is no better person to bring the energy than Will. So just before we got on here, I was actually doing a little dance party with Will. He couldn't see me, so we were having a separate dance parties to sort of bring that energy for our keynote this morning. All right, so let's get this party started with Will, because as I was reading his bio this morning, he never ceases to amaze me. So everyone knows Will, but he is the founder of Endless Events and the host of the podcast Event Icons. And he's been producing events in high school, which doesn't surprise me at all because his awards are numerous. He's been named 40 under 40 event industry leaders, 35 entrepreneurs under the age of 35, and this one, which I can't wait to hear the story about, Inc. magazine's coolest college startup, which I'm really intrigued on what that is. All before graduating college. So this guy's an overachiever for sure, and we're so thrilled to have him open up for our first Untethered today. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Allie. So excited to be here, and I'm sure we're going to get to talk a little bit later, so I'll see you a little bit later for sure. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Reza, Adam, Melissa, Jamie. That's right, I'm looking at the chat right now. We're live. So real quick, I want to bring the energy to the chat. If there's one thing I can bring in the world, it's energy. So really quick, I want everyone to post their favorite onomatopoeia in the chat. That's like a wow, pow, kazam. It's where the word is spelt like the way it sounds. Post that in the chat and let's get crazy right now. I want to see it. I want to see that chat blow up. So for those who don't know me, my name is Will Curran, Chief Event Einstein Endless Events. At Endless Events, we like to create the equation. And what that means is we like taking complex things and making them super duper simple. Oh my gosh, look at the chat blow up. Emma, wowza, thank you so much. And when we like to take things that are super duper complex and make them simple, we realize it makes everybody's life easier, especially in the events industry where everything gets more complex. But it also calls for us to think like scientists, right? And when it comes to thinking about events like science, you got to think about how you're going to end up changing the way you think. So, you think to yourself, science, they're like super smart. And by the way, anyone out there who's like, oh God, I hate science, don't worry, I'm not gonna get that nerdy for you right now. But let's talk very, very simply. In science, you like to think like everything's static, right? They come up with a theory, scientific theory, boom, done. It's fact, it never changes. But let's start to think about this and how science itself has even evolved over time and how the events industry needs to evolve the same way. In fact, think about it. There was a point in time when the world was so sure that the sun revolved around it and that the universe, the center of it, was the earth. We were the most important things in the entire world. But we obviously learned that it's the other way around. And that, in fact, the sun is the center of our galaxy and the center of our way of doing things. And we just are a small piece in the pie. So you need to think about that when it comes to your events as well. You need to think about how the scientific theory of your events is going to change and how, what we're going to talk about today, that your playbook is definitely dead. And it's time to find a new playbook when it comes to events. So, always lose track of where my pen is. I'm going to be doing a little bit of drawing, a little bit of fun, crazy things. But before we do that, I want to get you guys even more engaged. You guys are going crazy in the chat. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to be looking at the chat the entire time, so if there's something I can clarify as I talk through it, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm going to try to get to them as I go along. But I'm also, if hopefully someone can help me out, drop in, I made a Google Doc for you all to take notes in. Honest engagement is choose your own adventure. So if you like to take notes, why take notes all on your own? Instead, let's collaborate. Let's use Google Docs to do it. So I'm hoping we can drop the link to that Google chat right on the Google Doc right into the chat for you all. If not, I'm sure we'll be able to include it afterwards as well. But there's a ton of links to all the podcasts that we do. Our own playbook that you can download for free is in there. And also if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. But let's start talking about your dead playbook and what you need to do to get it to the next level. So when it comes to thinking about evolving when it comes to events, it's really funny. I've been watching these last couple months as we do primarily events in the United States with international audiences coming in. So what I've noticed is that a lot of people are, this last year, we focused so much on going virtual, going digital. We got to create these amazing engagements and experiences for people. And then immediately upon us being able to return, or at least we thought we were going to return, right? Everyone said, you know what? Let's just go back to the way we did things in 2019. No, we don't need a hybrid event. Let's just make it 100% in person. That's what people are craving, right? And it was funny. It was like everyone just took everything they learned over the last year and threw it away. And you're here right now, so you know you can't do that. You need to be thinking about doing things and taking what you learned over the last year and applying it. Why are we as an industry taking everything, all the heartache, all the pain, all the struggle that we went through in the last year and just tossing it out the window and acting like it didn't happen? No, we need to take that and help us evolve, right? Why are we burying, and go back to the grave metaphor, everything that we learned and just expecting that it's not going to come out of the ground like a zombie and come to attack you? So, think about evolving. We need to evolve as an industry. So, obvious things. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Hybrid is the future. So it wouldn't be a whiteboard if I don't get to draw a little bit. So, reminders. Hybrid is the future. Well, actually, hybrid is now, right? We obviously have a lot to go through when it comes to industry, making sure we do things safe, everything like that. So keep that in mind as we start to work through your next upcoming events. However, you need to stop resisting this. The idea that hybrid is now is not something you can ignore. Next thing, when it comes to hybrid events, let's think about it. A big trend that we've had over the last many years is diversity and inclusion. We need to be diverse. We need to be inclusive when it comes to our events. And ultimately, we need to be able to, I'm going to drop the link in the chat real quick. We need to be able to take what we've done with hybrid events and make them truly inclusive, right? I produced an event a little while ago, and it was purely digital, and it's the one event I actually produce anymore. And what's funny is I've been producing for years and years and years. It's been in remote locations in Croatia, Kenya, Panama, like very remote, no electricity kind of event. I know, weird for the tech guy. What's funny is then we did this virtual event, and this attendee sent us an email and said, thank you so much for producing this event. I've never been able to attend. And I was like, well, why? Is it too expensive? Is it, too busy? He goes, no, I'm in a wheelchair. And that was something we never thought about when it came to our events. We don't do them in a hotel ballroom. We do them in a remote campsite in the middle of nowhere. And that attendee was able to attend our event, and we were able to be truly inclusive because it was a digital event. And hybrid events allow that. So we need to be able to remember that inclusivity is key. And if you decide that you're not going to go hybrid, you are no longer inclusive. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it as it is, right? So think about that when it comes to your events. Yeah. Not as it just let's reach more audience. Let's do things more technical.
But it sounded like people.
But let's definitely make sure that we are more inclusive. All right. So hybrid is now, that we're going to be inclusive. Next thing we want to think about is that when it comes to hybrid, everybody's thinking about it as, you have these two audiences. You have in-person, I'll put INP, and then you have virtual as well as V. And you know what? Yeah, they just need to interact with each other and stuff. That is not a hybrid event. That is two separate events happening at the same time. If you want a truly hybrid event, you need to take those audiences and not merge them. They need to be one single audience. I'll write it as VINP. One single audience all together in one. Let me bring this whiteboard on over so you guys don't have to see my back as much. So, there we go. So, you need to think about your audiences as one single audience. And why is that important? Because when you see them as two separate audiences, they start to get FOMO of each other, right? They think to themselves, maybe I'm too busy, I should have gone virtual. Maybe I'm virtual, I wish I had gone in person. But instead, build one single audience so no one's feeling FOMO. Try to design the experiences to merge them as much as possible. And I get it. It's impossible for you to recreate the feeling of a happy hour virtually the same way that it is in person. In person, we just put a bar and play some music and everyone just talks to each other, has a good time. But virtual, it's much harder than that. But maybe the happy hour is dead. Maybe we needed to do things a little bit differently. Maybe you need to bury the idea of a happy hour. All right, so we're going to keep burning on through because we got so much stuff to cover when it comes to your playbook and why it's dead, right? The next thing you need to be thinking about is that we love to think about events as this long journey that we plan, year, all throughout the year, and then there's this big, gigantic explosion, which is the energy from the event, and then, energy kind of like trickles out after the event, right? Long-term engagement has been on the topic of the events industry for years. Everyone was trying to figure out how to do it. I think we finally cracked it this last year when we realized it wasn't about the big, gigantic event. It's about building a community, right? I think that Untethered does a great job about this because it's not about the one big event a year. It's about doing lots of little things along the entire way, about doing multiple events that keep the community going, that people identify with. You need to be thinking about building community when it comes to your event because the idea of you only making money once a year off of an annual event is gone. That's so hard to do. I can't imagine a business model where I only get to collect revenue and money one day of the year. You need to change that. So build a community when it comes to your entire event. Utilize the platform that you're using. In fact, all of them are pushing for this, is to sign up for an annual subscription and instead, do a little event here, do a little event here, do a little event here, do a little event here. And in fact, as we are starting to realize how much travel is being hard for people, maybe consider making them a little bit more hyper-localized. Let's do a Seattle event. Let's do a San Francisco event. Let's do a Phoenix event. Yeah, come to Phoenix. Let's do a New York event, and let's do it along the entire way so people can start to bring their community together, right? Look at all the most successful communities you're a part of. They're doing this, all right? So build that long-term community. Everybody good with that? Let's see how everybody's doing. Oh, thank you guys so much for I see you guys taking notes in the chat. Okay, I had the Google Doc open for a second. Michelle, thank you so much for agreeing. And yeah, as meeting planners, we need to focus on the experience design and ensuring all attendees get value. And that's definitely when we go back to the idea of virtual in-person being together, is look at the experience design. Think to yourself, would I actually want to attend my own event? Would I actually want to buy a ticket to my own event? The answer is no. You got a lot of work to do, right? All right, let's continue on down the road. Keep the chat going, guys. You guys are crazy. If you guys are doing good, and you guys are feeling good right now, put a number 1 in the chat. I want to make sure you guys are your heart's going good. If I'm going too fast, I'm so sorry. I promise this will be recorded. You can watch it at half speed. All right, let's continue on down the line. All right, next thing is content. Before the pandemic, when we used to jack load with, who had the most sessions for their community. Wow, one's going crazy in chat. So many times when we had our content, we would jam pack it. It was about quantity over quality. How many conferences would you see that sold? We have over 1,000 sessions. I can't attend 1,000 sessions, right? It's about quality over quantity. I would rather attend to an event that had one amazing keynote that I paid even the same price I would with for 100 keynotes. Why is this important? How many times have we attended an event and we go to it and it turns out that we don't remember anything, but we take away one thing, right? It's so hard for the mind to absorb so many different things. But if you can walk away with one takeaway, so many people say, I can walk away with one takeaway from a conference, it was worth it, right? So why not focus all that energy on that one single takeaway, right? That number 1 takeaway you're trying to get, right? We learned this through virtual because we started putting crappy content online and we saw people who were like, oh, this really sucks. I'm just gonna click and delete, close the Chrome window. I'm gonna go walk the dog. I'll go play Xbox, right? Why are we not thinking about that now, going back into doing hybrid events, right? It's time for you to kill off the content that doesn't work. No, and at the beginning, I used to say maybe the crappy content, you make it pre-recorded, people can watch it on demand. I don't think that works. How many people here got to the end of a conference and they're like, here's all the on-demand content, and you went back and watched it? No one, right? Who has time for that anymore? You're here now. All of you right now are getting this content, and that's how you feel the best way to engage with it, right? And if I'm wrong, you can tweet me or LinkedIn message me and be like, I watched the recording, Will. I watched it. You're wrong. Please let me know. All right, so stop having crappy content. Nobody cares about quantity, as I lock up my board. Nobody cares about quantity. Everyone cares about quality now. So the other thing, too, is work with your presenters to increase that quality, right? I recently did an event where they worked really hard with the presenters to align the mission, what they were trying to accomplish, the theme, and it showed in the content. The speakers got up, who I thought knew nothing about the industry. And they walked up and they blew everyone away. They talked very relevantly about what people were feeling right in that moment. And the only way you can accomplish that is with effort, with the care and attention that you get, right? You need to put some, let's do a little bit different colors. You need to put some love into your content, right? Work with your presenters and make your content better. Deal? Deal. You guys all know that. All right. The last little thing that I'll inject in here, and then I want to hear questions from you all in the chat, because I love answering questions live on the spot. So feel free to put them in. And if I missed your question, by the way, and I haven't answered it, feel free to repost it. I'm not going to be offended by that. All right. So last little bit, well, not last little bit, but when it comes to Playbook, right? When we're thinking about the events, I kind of tease this a little bit, is that, we kind of went from 2019 into 2020, and things were a little different, right? Like maybe in 2020, things were a little crazy and we did things a little differently and, we got a little messy, and that's okay because we were trying new things. But you know what I'm noticing in the events industry? Everyone's like, okay, we're going into 2021, we're going into hybrid. Let's just go right back to 2019 and do it the exact same way. I've heard clients that literally say, we're just going to do what we did in 2019. We'll do the same hotel. We'll use the XYZ company that we used in 2019. Why on earth do we think that what worked in 2019 at all is going to work anymore? It doesn't work. And you know what? This is I think, a weird fallacy of the events industry, is that so often we try one thing, we do one little thing, and then we're like, oh, wow, that was successful. Let me just tweak it a little bit. Let me do I'm going to do it at the Gaylord this year. We're going to do it at a Gaylord next year. And we're going to have, a slightly different theme. Instead of it being bold as the theme, we're going to do, love as the theme. I don't know, right? And we're going to do the same number of sessions, the same kind of catering, just rehash it. We're just basically what I used to grow up, we used to make fun of, we go to these neighborhoods and you look at all the houses and they're all so cookie cutter and the same. No more cookie cutter events. Don't take what you did and just rehash it over and over again. So let me give you an example of this and how you might go thinking. This is my new favorite controversial opinion. I'm so sorry if there's a hotel person here. Please don't kill me. Please don't send me death threats. Why on earth, when it comes to catering of events, we decided that we need to drive the price of our venue down and the cost of our AV and production down, and we'll sign these gigantic catering bills where we'll feed everybody for our entire event. I don't know about you. I don't remember the last time I went to an event and actually ate the catering the event provided. What do I do instead? I go walk and try to find the local restaurants. I take time and, instead of it being an hour break, I maybe miss 2 sessions to go on a nice 2-hour lunch with someone like Anthony Vade, for example, in the audience, right? I want to do that sort of meal engagement. I want to try the local foods. I want to get off property, and I want to go more intimate with some of my other attendees. But yet, what's the biggest bill in our events? Catering, right? Yeah, sometimes it's convenient, right? You can grab a coffee real quick to go in. But why do we focus so much on picking a venue that's going to have this gigantic catering bill, and we just keep sinking money into it? Why are we not telling the hotel, no, this is the price you're going to give it to me, and I don't want any catering at all. In fact, I'm going to tell my attendees, here's a 3-hour break for you to go lunch off-site. That's economic development right there, and that's how you get people to see the actual city. It's not the ballrooms that they're staying in. All right, that's my controversial opinion. Again, let's make sure. I'm looking for death threats in the chat. Anthony totally agrees with me. Can't wait to have lunch with you again, Anthony. All right. And last but not least, when it comes to throwing out your playbook, right? That's a pretty big, we just took the heart out of an event in some ways, or I guess the stomach would be the right place, I just said, right? So when it comes to events, I haven't used this bottom section. We have to recognize when it comes to our playbook of our events, our attendees have changed in the last year, right? How many people I don't know if there's emojis, but I think on Windows, it's Windows period, and I think on Mac, it's Command space. someone with a Mac can tell me, but put an emoji, a hand raise, or a hand right now in the chat if it lets you, or just write hand, if you in the last year have changed. Your habits have changed, what you care about has changed, the way you eat has changed, the way you digest content has changed, the way you work has changed. Have you changed as a person in the last year? Your attendees have as well. So let's think about one specific thing. So that's the overall action strategies. Think about how they've changed. Survey them. They're not the same attendees from 2019 or even 2020, right? We're changing so fast right now. But let's think about this. How many people, hands 1,000%, I love it. Tusha, pretty sure I said your name right, hopefully. Emma says 2,000%. Well, it's like 2 million%, 2 billion%. So how many people also out there used to work a desk job and then now work a remote job? I think it's everybody, right? And when it comes to this, how many times when we used to go to events, we would say, hey boss, I'm going to this conference. I'll see you in a week. You don't check your email. You don't check any messages. If someone calls you, they're interrupting you, right? Do you think you can go back and do that now moving into 2021? You tell your boss you're going to a conference, he's going to say, okay, cool. Can you still attend that meeting from the conference, right? Can you just step out for an hour? And of course you're going to say yes because you're like, I want to be a part of that meeting. I don't want to miss out what's going out, right? We need to remember that people work remotely now. So what does this mean? Well, people are now remote. So what that's leading to is no longer can people completely disconnect their lives when going to events, whether virtual or in person. Instead, what you need is event, work, life, integration. This is where you get the really crappy handwriting, guys. You need that integration. Why is that important? Because people need the ability to step out and take that meeting. They need the ability to go walk their dog if they're virtual. They need the ability just to disconnect because they need more time to process the information you're giving them. So what does this mean? Well, let me give you a couple tactical tips when it comes to this. First of all, give more white space on your event. Give people the opportunity to schedule a meeting in between, right? What this means is that you need to create spaces in your event where people can work and not have to leave the event. I talked a little bit about it at an event earlier this week, is that this idea that we allow our attendees to get lost and to disconnect from the event, right? Imagine, for example, you have to imagine an event in 2019. If you work remotely and you had to go take an hour-long meeting, where would you go take it at an event? The hallway, maybe? No, it's too loud. Maybe around the corner. You're lucky you find an outlet in that couch. Heck yeah. Chances are you won't, though, because the whole convention center is being used. It's busy everywhere. Where do you go? You go back to your hotel room. Now you're in your hotel room. You do the meeting. You get done. Well, I'm like, a 20-minute walk back to the ballroom. I just check some emails. Oh, let's do some Slack messages. And before you know it, boom, you're completely out of the flow of the event. You come back. I sometimes left events for like an hour and I come back and I'm like, what happened here? Like, I feel like I've just missed out on something, right? We can't allow it. So instead, integrate a space where people will work out in your event. Take your exhibit hall, make a big, gigantic place with outlets and strong Wi-Fi and wired Ethernet for some of us who really need fast internet, right? And allow people to work so they can get some work done and then get back into the event and never leave the event. Yes. All right, I got 4 minutes left. Oh, Joy says she's been working at home since 2019. Yeah, very interesting, very cool. I love it. We've been working remotely for 7 years, so it felt like nothing changed for us too. All right, so let me see if I got any questions in the chat. If not, we got about 3 minutes left on here. Let me see if there's any good questions that you all have. By the way, if you didn't see in the chat, there's a Google Doc. Let's post it again on there. Right at the top of the link section inside that Google Doc, there's a download our free virtual event playbook. So if you're looking to understand how we think about events and you like the way this is going, go check out that playbook. It'll be very, very helpful for you. You also see some things on there about 2021 event trends. If you want to see how events are evolving, our 2022 trends are going to be coming out really, really soon. But if you ever don't want to miss any awesome engagement, awesome content, definitely subscribe to our newsletter. We write on it every week and a handwritten note to you all about all the awesome stuff that you can go to check out. Also, one thing to keep in mind when it comes to your playbook of your events, we just talked about ideas and concepts to take your events to the next level, but your team also needs to change as well, right? How many people have been seeing like the word like virtual event producer or technical producer, right? Brant and I used to talk about this on Event Tech Podcast about how this role was like very needed in the event industry. Now everyone needs it, right? So go check it out. There's a really good article, a good podcast also talking about the future of your event team. What sort of roles do you need to have? That's in that link as well. Also, Allie, thank you so much. On your phone and crushing it on the links. I appreciate you all so much. So yeah, go check out all those links. And my gosh, so many awesome notes on that Google Doc as well. So if you want to go check out the notes, go check those out. But let me see if there's anything else. But yeah, you guys, Nancy says your ideas are stellar. Thank you so much. Nancy, I appreciate you. Jacob, you've been remote for 11 years. All right, I'm going to get this. Anthony coming out with a good question. Any tips on how event managers, planners should help their event owners understand the battle between virtual, hybrid, in-person? The first thing I think is you got to have a conversation with them. This is not done via email. This is not done via a Slack message. You need to be able to have a conversation with them. But I think the thing is, I like whenever it comes to trying to help someone understand something, is I like to walk a mile in my shoes. I like to kind of put on my glasses for a second. And what I like to do is, when I was talking to an event owner, I'd be like, talk to me about how you attend events now. What does this look like for you? Do you think you're going to go to 20 conferences, right? You know, I guess I get to say this as a CEO role, but like I myself, who used to go to a ton of conferences, am going to decide to only go to a few conferences now that I've decided. Have that conversation and say, how are you wanting to attend an event? And that's when it will click. Otherwise, I think they're going to think about this all theoretical. They're going to think about that's theory, but it's not. This is not rocket science, y'all. Go back to the science metaphors. So thank you so much, all. I know I'm coming to the end of my time, but I'm going to see you all in just a little bit. Check out that Google Doc for all the links, and I'll see you all in just one little short minute for a quick panel and maybe a discussion a little bit later. Yep, my mic has had enough. Thank you all.
If only I could let this out.